Hey guys, we're back with the next episode of Sryth, our online text-based RPG. And previously what we were doing is we were going through Proving Grounds 5, which is the Silver Crest adventure, and it's about me trying to get shadow magic. So yeah, we were getting along pretty well. So first, before we do that, let's go to the blue door and see about getting any experience bonuses from last time. Oh, 70. Oh, that's rich. But I'll take it. Alright, so we're going to go back to the Proving Grounds and then back to Proving Grounds 5. Um, my mouse wheel is too good. But yeah, we can see we've done these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm probably going to do 5 or 6 at a time, so it'll probably be a few more episodes to finish this. But as you can see, we're on the road to Talinas. We got some horses from a farm town, and now we're headed to trying to get to Talinas, and these are just perilous events that probably happen along the way. So let's get to it, yeah? Thanks so much for joining me, and here we go. The road to Talinas, the lights of Sage Morn. Alright. Heading north through the desolate corner of the countryside and making good progress, you and Halan decide to ride through the night, taking advantage of the cover of darkness. Oddly enough, we're safer in the dark, she says. The long shadows of dusk are those of dawn, and those of dawn present more peril than the black of night. For several hours, your journey along the road proceeds without incident, and much to your surprise, though it is a welcome change, your conversation with Halan is not focused on the task immediately at hand. You converse on a wide variety of subjects. She is particularly interested in hearing you recount your latest adventures. The night takes a turn for the worse as a series of violent thunderstorms roll in and quickly envelop you. The bright flashes, which seem to illuminate the countryside for miles around, and the reverberating roll of the accompanying thunder, serve to make your steeds almost dangerously skittish. We should find shelter, at least until this passes, suggests Halan. The poor beast seemed ready to die of fright, and I wouldn't mind a bit of sleep myself. No sooner had she spoken the words, a series of lights loomed in the view along the road ahead. That must be the town of Sagemorn, said Halan, practically shouting over the din of the thunder and spattering of rain on the road. I didn't know we were so close to it, but it's certainly a welcome sight now. Halan urges her horse to pick up its pace and you follow suit, but as you draw nearer to the row of lights, you quickly realize they're not at all what you expected. What is it? The road appears impassable. A dozen armed militiamen, thoroughly drenched by the downpour, stand in the middle of the road. Several of them hold hooded lanterns, and one of them wields a crossbow, which, much to your horror, is trained on you. That's far enough, said one of the men, stepping forward as you draw within 10 yards of the apparent blockade. We have no use for murderers in Sagemore. The two of you best throw down your weapons and dismount. Any trickery, we're within our rights to level justice here and now. We're under orders to take a hold, the two of you. And tell the men that they must have you confused with someone else, and that you're an urgent errand and merely passing through. Seems as not you'd spin such a tale, said the lantern-bearing man. Save your breath, friend. The Rangers were through here not more than 2 hours back, and they told us what to expect coming up our way, and it was you. Now throw down your weapons and dismount. Beyond the blockade, you can clearly make the dark outlines of the building that make up the center of the town of Sagemorn. Trail talk, echoes the voice of Halan in your mind. His border ranger's act seems to have again done the trick. He's likely employed his power of charm to secure the believability of his claims. It's unlikely we can reason with them, but I'll not have the blood of these innocent men on my hands. Though a dozen strong, the men seem reluctant to immediately approach you, giving you much needed pause to determine your next course of action. She says we can't talk them out of it, so let's just subdue them. Realizing that may be followed to attempt to get past the dozen men, you urge your sword and prepare to engage them from the saddle. 12 men quickly surround you and Halan, and you found yourself facing 7 of them while Halan engages by the other 5. You have no desire to slay the men, but you're determined to put them down. Subdue. Aggressive. Defensive. Aggressive. Defensive. Aggressive. 12 militiamen lie scattered across the entire width of the muddy road. None of them has been permanently harmed, but they've all suffered batterings they will not soon forget. Alarm wipes her brow and turns to you and nods. The two of you take your horse into a swift trot. You move past fallen men and pass through Sagemore. Once beyond the town limits, you break into a gallop, speeding off under the flashing, bursting sky. Well, so much for sleeping. Sagemore rapidly recedes in darkness behind you, and within only a few minutes you find yourself approaching a fork on the road. The road splits to the right and left with no sign or any indication as where it leads. Well, woodsmanship is more likely to succeed, so let's go with that. You slip down from the saddle and make a close examination of the wet ground. Not far away, you discover several set of hoofprints headed down the right fork. The tracks have nearly been washed clean by the rain, but you determine that they're less than 2 hours old. Knowing that the right fork is more likely for danger, you must now decide what you choose to take. Let's go left. Take the left fork, and without hesitation, Alarm follows you. Not long after the road splits, you cross a narrow stone bridge spanning a rushing stream and pass into an area of hilly meadows broken at odd intervals by patches of thick tangled wood. Realizing that at the moment of weariness is perhaps your greatest enemy, the two of you select a dense section of forest out of the sight from the road and find a clear spot where you hope to be able to steal a couple hours rest. Confident that you're far away enough removed from Sagemore, you settle down for a spell of much needed slumber. You're stirred from sleep by Helen's hand on your shoulder, and she tells you that dawn is now only 2 hours distant. I have slept just a little, she confesses, as the two of you gather your belongings and prepare to resume your journey to Telenis before first light. My mind has been plagued by visions, both numerous and terrible, and I would have thought them to be nightmares had I been in sleep script, but they are more likely messages from afar, though I only guess as to who has sent them. You ask her the details of the vision she has had, and she seems almost reluctant to do so. At last, upon you insist, she relents. The vision I had was of your 3 fellow members of the Silver Crest, she confesses. Driscoll and Priam are still in pursuit of Rindelwell, though their search has taken them far from the walls of Trithik. I can only tell you that what I felt by observing them, Alison. It does not seem that they are merely looking for Rindelwell. All indications were that they are hunting him, as hunters stalks his prey. Your heart skips a beat in a revelation, but she quickly attempts to allay your fears. The visions I have are not always what they seem, she says. At times they are true, though at other times they are misleading. I have seen what I have seen, and for now we must leave it at that. What it means I cannot say, though I suddenly feel as if it is a great deal we do not know about the business we find ourselves in the middle of. Our errands remains the same, however, and I dare say the sooner we find Sryth, the better off we're all likely to be. All of us. Leave the woods and return to the road, eager to continue the journey to Telenis, and put aside, at least for the moment, the terrible thought that Helen's vision has conjured up. I haven't mentioned it yet, she says, as she mounts her horse and urges the somewhat refreshed animal onto the road, but we'll actually be heading for a small village named Miript, west of Telenis, though we may find ourselves in the great city before all is said and done. You nod as you climb into your mare and gently guide her onto the road. For the first time since you left Trithik, you're beginning to have reservations about this entire affair, though you can't yet place your finger on anything in particular. Something about it all doesn't seem quite right. You silently vow not to relax your guard. Yes, don't relax your guard. Okay, next one. The road to Lean is a narrow escape. Thanks you. For 2 days, your thankfully uneventful journey takes you through an area of sparsely inhabited countryside. Every so often, you pass through a village and the outskirts of a small town where you manage to rest and refresh your horses, but you never linger for longer than is necessary. Now and again, you meet travelers on the road, but none that arouse suspicion or cause you any reason for alarm. After 2 days, you begin to think that perhaps you're no longer being pursued. Helen says she hopes that you're right, but she admits that she's not quite so confident. In the early morning on the 3rd day since the encounter at Sagemore, when a curious sight looms into view around a bend in the road ahead. Brightly coloured flags and painted wagons appear ahead, and as you approach, you realize that some sort of fair or festival is setting up in a pair of broad grassy fields that flank both sides of the road. Dozens of people move busily about the many wagons lining the road, and a myriad of tents have begun to spring up in both fields. Alana asks an old man at the edge of the road about it all, and he tells her that it's the annual pheasant festival of Hapsprin. What? I'll see if I can find some provisions for us, she says as she dismounts and tethers her horse to a post at the side of the road. You follow suit and tell her that you remain here to watch the horses. Wise notion, she says, but also watch yourself. I'm not so sure we're out of harm's way yet. Alana's only been gone a few minutes when you suddenly catch sight of a young boy at your right, seated on the ground only a few yards away, spreading out a circle of brightly colored glistening stones. You are ready to swear that the boy wasn't there only moments ago. The sandy haired lad, clad from head to toe in a brilliant purple attire, calls you over next to you, allowed you to foretell your future. These stones speak of things to come, he says. What do you say, miss? Wouldn't you care to know of your future? In another hour, folks will be paying a gold token to hear theirs. Yours is at no cost. Amused, though only moderately intrigued, you agree to let the lad foretell your future. He grins and spits at the stones before him, running strips of his finger over the shiny surfaces as he closes his eyes. Much of what the young showman has to say about your future seems to be the form of a broad generalizations, which could likely fit anyone's circumstance. You quickly lose interest when suddenly his narrative broaches several key singular points with regard to your recent travails. Okay. You listen with renewed interest to what he has to say. You're running, he says, his eyes tightly shut. I see you running from someone, but you're not alone. A lady is with you. You're searching for someone. You're worried perhaps about a lost friend or friends, and you believe them to be in danger, in darkness, lost. I see you in a high-walled city, running for your life, alone, terrified, clawing at the door. But it does not open. I see darkness turning to light, and light growing dim, turning as dark as the dead of night. I can see nothing else. The sound of Alan's voice from behind breaks you away from the captivating, almost haunting narrative, and then you turn to see your companion approach with a cloth sack that is likely filled with the provisions she sought. You turn back and ask the boy how he came to know this, but shocked to discover he is gone. Where he sat only moments ago stands a man selling fruit out of several large baskets. In fact, you're standing directly near the largest basket. You quickly decide to say nothing of this alone, but you mull over the lad's words as you return to the horse and prepare to once again set out for Talinas. You ride out of Hapsbreen, leaving the festival behind, but find that you're unable to take your mind of the strange encounter with the young boy. The two of you are only passed around the bend in the road about a mile from the festival when you come upon a horrifying sight. A covered wagon, its sides adorned with colourful banners, lie overturned in the middle of the road. Not far away, its two horses detached and unharmed, standing at the edge of the road, grazing in the tall grass. The sound of a child crying draws you. Eyes a small girl lying near the rear of the wagon. She sobs and moans, and you suddenly realize one of her legs is trapped under one of the wagon wheels. You leap from the saddle, followed closely by Halan, and the two of you rush to her side. While you assess the situation, wondering how best to safely remove her from beneath the wagon, a wagon's bulk. Halan suddenly gives a startled cry. You look down horrified at the young girl's body rapidly melting into shadow. Snared! On your guard, Allison! Echoes Halan's voice in your mind. You fall back from what is obviously a sinister trap, and Alan joins your retreat. Less than a moment later, 6 masked, black-cloaked figures bound out of the wrecked wagon, in their gloved hands tightly grip long iron rods, and the ends of which are entwined with lightning. Two of the masked men rush at Alan, leaving you face to face the remaining trio. You hold your ground and bravely face off against the first of your 3 attackers. These rods remind me of the equalizers from A Legend of Korra. They use metal rods. Yeah, well, quick battle. Time to face a second. Keep going. Here's the third. With no trace of the 6 defeated mass attackers remain, you're about to just you mount your horses and move off once the 4 more of your silent foes burst through the woods on the edge of the road. 2 of the masked men in the lightning state pose a strike. Move on, Halan. The other pair quickly engages you. I mean, you should just attack one of us if you want to defeat us. Yes, dead. Well, not really dead. They're shadow creatures or something. Last few mass attachments melt into the pool of shadows at your feet, which smells the shadow cast by the overhanging trees and disappears. Salon defeated her pair of foes as well and arrives at your side, but the elation of victory is short-lived as 2 black-robed figures move out of the woods. The sinister figures seem to walk as if their feet don't touch the ground. Sorcerers, Allison! Echoes her voice inside your head. But I'm sorely mistaken if they're among the living. They're among the worst of Trail Talk's confederates. For either of you can act, the ghoulish robed figure thrusts forward their hands in unison, unleashing wide arcs of lightning at you. Why is lightning their weapon of choice if they have shadow magic? You hastily summon magical shields, bends, and quivers and absorbs a pair of lightning bolts. You and Halan survive the lightning attack unscathed. That's right! The 2 ghoulish sorcerers as has been the case with all your enemies thus far, melt and the shadow disappear into the unbroken gloom of the forest. You cry out in frustration, and Halan echoes your sentiment. Like, how can you defeat shadow things that just can come out of the shadows as often as possible? Your heart sinks as another group of masked men emerge from the wood, each of them clutching a now familiar iron lightning sticks. You can count a dozen of them. Halan retreats to your side, and the two of you prepare to make what was likely prove a final desperate stand against such overwhelming odds, and a sudden rumble turns every head south along the road. Hurtling along the road is its four wheels rumbling as its twin horses pull it straight for the group of masked men is a brightly decorated covered wagon. Seated on a long plank across the front of the wagon, which serves as a dress, is a diminutive figure clad in a grey cloak, his head covered by a thin cloth hood. The driver furiously urges the horses on when it appears he has every intention of plowing through your assailants. The masked men quickly retreat, some of them leaping back and forth, while others melt in the shadows and disappear. You and Halan watch with amazement, and the wagon speeds to the spot where the enemy stood only moments ago. As the wagon approaches, now slowing its breakneck pace, driver screams for the two of you to leap aboard. Halan nods, and the two of you prepare to make jump of the wagon hurtles past. Well, let's see. You nimbly board the speeding wagon and find that Halan is also made it up safely. The wagon, its mysterious driver furiously flick the reins, continues to hurtle along the road. The wagon eventually slows but continues to roll along the road, and the diminutive driver tosses back the cloth hood covering his head to reveal the face of a young lad who just recently foretold your fortune in Habsburn. You excuse such informality, he says, speaking in a manner inconsistent with, and indeed well beyond his tender years, but there is little time to impart to you what you should find most useful. Who is it you seek is not found in Merupt, said the lad, looking from you to Halan in turn. You must make for the village of Grimswick in Sorrow Hills, east of Talinas. There you... How do you know who we seek? Or that we're seeking anyone, snaps Halan. And how are we to know we can trust you? For all I know, you may be in league with those who wish us no individual will. With the time, I might prove the benevolence of my intentions, he replies. You must hurry, though, as quickly as you are closing in on which you seek are the nets drawing ever in around you. Look for Bitterstag and Grimswick. Who are you? Said Halan, her demeanor hardening. The young boy does not reply in an inquiry, but instead continues his curious narrative. From here to the city you move through great peril, said the lad. Two apart may run less risk than two astride. He pointedly asked the lad who he is and how he has come to know about your business and why he wishes to help you. Consider me a friend, he said, emphasizing the word friend. No doubt you've run across too few of these thus far, and I dare say you can use one about now. When a sudden violent jolt shakes the wagon and causes your heart to skip a beat, much to your relief, it seems the wagon merely rolled over a small impression in the road. You turn simultaneously with Halan to again address the lad, only to find that he's again vanished. Halan sighs. As if these waters need more clouding, she says. Halan takes to the reins and quickly assumes control of the wagon. She tells you that your mutual mysterious friend seems to have suggested the two of you split up and take different roads to Grimswick. But how did he know of Nerith? And if that's indeed what he means by who you seek, she says, I thought for a moment I had placed his face, or perhaps his voice, but I confess that I could not. It remained a mystery for now, it seems. Halan tells you that the village of Oxland should not be far ahead, and that suggests a natural place for your path to split. If the curve, that's the course the two of you agree upon. This road divides in Oxland, she says. Part of it goes north and the other more or less north and east. There is a wisdom in splitting up, Alison, though I still like to know who our friend is who suggested it. Why is there a wisdom in splitting up? There's never a wisdom in splitting up. It is late morning when you roll into Oxland and bring the colourfully adorned wagon to a halt before the dilapidated village stables. Halan disappears into the stables and returns a short while later to announce that she has traded the wagon for two able riding horses. The stable master, a short, pleasant fellow, leads out the two steeds. You take the reins of the fine animal and follow Halan to a quiet spot on the main road leading to the village. You've begun to feel more uncertain about this endeavour than ever before, and the prospect of splitting up seems to only add a deal of grimness to what is already a daunting task. And a quick glance at Halan proves that you aren't the only one who has such reservations. If we caught alone with no escape, the outlook is certainly bleak, she says, as if reading your thoughts. But even with our backs pressed together, we should hardly have hope to survive the last engagement without the timely arrival of our unknown friend. It's unlikely, in any case, that they should find, or worse, bring down both of us leagues apart. At least that much I pray. It is decided that the safest course for seeing through the mission of finding Nerith, both of you now hoping he is in Grimswick, is to split up and make your separate ways to the small village. You are to take the road north to the town of Tor-Tinar, and then head northeast to Talinas. Halan will strike out on the road, leaving northeast from here. Alan divides the revisions she acquired in Habsburg and gives half of them to you. In Tor Tinar, you should be able to fetch passage to Selena, she tells you as she makes ready to depart. Grimswick is east of the city, perhaps no more than half a morning's journey. And remember, according to our mysterious friend, we're to seek out the bitter stag. It seems like an alehouse to me. And she steps forward and meets you in a shoulder cross. Keep well, Ellison, and I'll see you at the bitter stag. And without another word, she turns and mounts a horse and rides off, not once looking back. Your eyes follow her until she's out of sight, and despite her words, you have an inexplicable feeling that you're seeing her for the very last time. Oh, I'm gonna see her for the last time. Let's see what my rank is today. Still 87. Alright, let's keep going. 2 more roads to Telenus. Pardon me. Do you have any Grey Poupon? I'm coming. Alright. A step ahead. It's early afternoon when you arrive in Tor Tinar, a small town bordered on the east and west by dense stretches of wood. Thankfully, the journey was uneventful, but you understand all too well that many lonely miles still separate you from Telenus and the village of Grimswick to its east. You inquire about coach passages to the capital city and a local tavern, an unimpressive, rather squalid hole known as Scoundrel Lodge. The answer you receive from the thin, largely unpleasant tavern keep is best disheartening. The tavern keep tells you that the remains of the stage due to have arrived from Telenus only yesterday were discovered early this morning on the road east of town. Not that much left of it, he said, doing his best to avoid eye contact. Just a pile of charred wood, no horses about. Like as not, someone took a torch and made off with the horses. Not the first time a stage has come to ruin these parts, so never in that fashion. Dismayed at the prospect of having to make the long journey by yourself, you're on your way out of the tavern when you're approached by a slight man with a bright red tunic. He seems nervous as he introduces himself as Colmere and asks you to have a word with you. You learn that Colmere has a wagon load of goods that he needs to transport to Telenus, but he's been afraid to go alone ever since he heard the morning's news about the destroyed coach. I just stopped over here, having come down from up north, he says. Good thing I did too. I might have easily met the same fate as the stage. Colmere eyes you curiously and laughs nervously. I won't pretend that I don't know who you are, Allison. He says, a woman like you rather stands out amongst ordinary folks. I'd be honoured and forever grateful if you share the road to Telenus aboard my wagon. Despite the man's apparent nervous nature, your instinct tells you that what he says is likely true. With no interest in making the journey alone on horseback, you accept the offer. Colmere is visibly relieved and tells you that he will immediately prepare the wagon. If we leave soon, we can make the village of Deer South before dark. With or without you, Allison, I'm little likely the idea of travelling these roads after sundown. You have no trouble finding someone to purchase your horse for 25 gold. The man to whom you sold the horse swiftly hands over the promised mount, and you leave the tavern, only to find Colmere already waiting aboard his wagon. My beaters are ready, he said, waving his hand over the 2 powerful-looking horses hitched to the front of what appears to be a relatively newly built wagon. A heavy white cloth covers the contents piled in the wagon bed, and when you inquire about the cargo, Colmere seems to grow nervous again. Just a bit of payload bark, he says, his answer coming across as somewhat rehearsed. It fetches a pretty sum in Telenus for sure. Alright. Riding aboard Colmere's wagon proves much less tiresome than on horseback, and with someone to talk to, the time passes with greater swiftness. Though you're quite guarded with what you reveal to your newfound companion, he seems to take no interest in your reason for heading to Telenus. He does inquire, however, about several of your past adventures and seems to know a good deal about some of them. When you pass by the spot on the road where the coach was attacked, the 2 of you fall silent. As your eyes gaze at the chart remains on the stage. You say nothing to Colmere, but you have little doubt the attack is the work of lightning-wielding assailants who have dodged your every step since Sryth. Eagle Neck Bridge is up ahead, announces Colmere, as the road turns slightly north. Deer South's not far beyond it. Sun's on the way down too. I expect we'll be there before dark. The road widens in the distance. Beneath the shadow of overhanging trees, you make out a pair of tall stone pillars that mark the western gate of the Eagle Neck Bridge. The bridge passes over a swift and wide stream, and Comey tells you that the stone structure is several hundred years old, but as you draw closer, you realize something is horribly wrong. Oh no! 5 bodies are strewn across the center of the stone bridge, and as you pull nearer, you recognize the attire to be that of Tissian soldiers. The corpses of the soldiers are all somewhat charred, and your pulse immediately quickens as your eyes carefully scan your surroundings. By the All-Father, gasped Colmere, staring wide-eyed at the bodies of the dead men. What devilry has come upon them? And before you can answer him, a loud crackle fills the air, and a pair of lightning bolts hurtle past you from behind, coming within inches of taking off your head. Colmere erupts in an unflattering scream and leaps from his seat, scrambling for cover beneath the wagon. You leap from the wagon as well and turn to find precisely what you expected. 4 masked men, their hands clutching the fearsome iron lightning sticks you've come to despise, and leapt out of the woods and rushed forward to attack you. You tactically position yourself to face the 4 of them, 2 at a time. Death to the heathens. The first 2 assailants melt into pools of shadow at your feet and slither off the greater gloom of the woods. The second 2 are immediately upon you. A final well-placed shot sends the last of your 4 assailants to the road at your feet. Like the rest, he swiftly melts into a pool of gloom and slithers off to join the shadows of the surrounding trees. My word! Exclaims Coleman as he crawls out from under the wagon. Surely those are the men who destroyed the coach, but were they even men? What devilry is this? There's nothing left of them. Coleman is quick to apologize for abandoning you in the fight. You forgive me, I hope, he says sheepishly, but I'm of little use in such matters. My bumbling presence, I'm afraid, would have only make things worse. You tell him that no apology is necessary, and after moving the bodies of the 5 slain soldiers to the edge of the road, you quickly resume your journey. Colmere talks less frequently following the attack of the bridge, and you sense that he is terrified. You are reminded that not all share the steel of your nerves. You offer a few words of assurance to your companion. As the afternoon progresses, you begin to take note of something curious. Despite the sizable load and the general weight of the heavy wagon, the 2 horses seem to pull it hard with hardly any effort. Indeed, several hours out of tour to now, you seem almost as fresh as they had begun their toil. It's as if the wagon is practically gliding along the surface of the road. You're about to make mention of this oddity to Colmere when he suddenly cries out and points ahead. You follow his finger, your eyes come to rest on a lone, dark-hooded figure standing in the middle of the road. Colmere halts the wagon, but as he does, the sinister-looking figure melts into the broad pool of shadow. Out of the puddle of gloom rise a pair of terrifying shapes. 2 shadow beasts. Massive shadow beasts rise in the pool of shadow. From the pool of shadow and grow and scratch to an immense size before stalking along the road towards you. You shout for Coleman to take cover, but even before the words left your lips, you rush to the other side of the wagon. Swelling hard as your heart races, you position yourself to engage the first of these terrifying creatures of shadow. The first shadow beast withers into a pool of gloom and vanishes. Almost immediately, you're set upon by the other. And then he's dead! A deafening roar echoes through the woods as the second shadow beast melts into shadow and disappears. You step back and lean up against the wagon as you attempt to catch your breath. Colmere reappears from beneath the wagon with a horrified look affixed his face. His demeanor quickly changes, however, as he stared at you in amazement. The tales told about you are not exaggerated in the least, he says. What manner of creatures are those? I dare say that even you can't possibly run into these every day. What devilry haunts this road? Feeling that it's only right to do so, you explain to Colmere that the men who attacked the stage and who attacked you at the bridge, and even those strange creatures of shadow, are seeking you. He listens with his eyes wide as you tell him that you've been followed for several days. Colmere immediately unleashes a barrage of questions regarding events of which you've alluded, but you continue to remain guarded with your answers, not willing to divulge too much, even to the one who finds himself sharing in the danger. When you tell Colmere that he should at once turn back, and that to continue with you is like to lead further and possibly greater peril, he shakes his head. I'm not much in a fight, he says nervously. But I have 2 strong horses and a good wagon. I can drive this team as good as any men 1,000 leagues around. If I can do nothing else, I can see you through to Salinas. Perhaps one day my name might appear in one of the tales they tell about you. Colmere pauses and then asks you something which you yourself were about to ask him. He asks you if the way the wagon is traveling with his wheel almost drift across the surface road is your doing. When you tell him it is not, but that you've also noticed it, he seems relieved. Well, this at least bodes well, he laughs nervously. Seems maybe there's good devilry and bad devilry in all of this. A great adventure. I'm proud to be sharing it with you, Allison, and don't mind saying it. The wagon resumes its course along the forest road in somewhat faster clip than before. Colmere turns to you and grins as the wagon rolls over the rugged terrain with nothing worse than an occasional small bump. Horses with nary a load don't tire easily, he said. Well, we'll be in due south before we know it. You can't help but agree with Colmere, and that the strange phenomenon seems at the present be a blessing, though you feel easy about it if you knew its origin and purpose. Victory screech! One more road to Delini's. We're at the 30-minute mark, but I think I'll finish Road to Delini's, and then we'll go on to the next ones in the next episode. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Alright, let's keep going. Thankfully and quite surprisingly, the remainder of your journey to Delini's passes without incident. The Der South Colmere has his horses reshod. In Der South Colmere has his horses reshod, and for the first time in a long while, you're not plagued by the nagging fear that you're being dogged at every step. Both Der South and the rest of your trek takes you through an area of wooded hills, moving you in and out of the many towns and villages that speckle the landscape to the south of Tisa's grand capital city. Early one morning, 4 days after settling out from Der South, the flustering banners that adorn the imposing battlement of Delini's outer wall loom into view, peering through a veil of mist that conceal much of the city. There now, said Colmere, his voice tinged with pride. Safe and sound, we are at the doorstep of our fair king's home. I dare say I've never doubted it. This would make quite a tale in your annals of adventure, I'd wager. You stare at Colmere as he proceeds through the main gates and along the city's primary avenue, heading for some vague destination in the eastern sector of the capital. I don't mean to alarm you, he remarks as you pass beneath the broad stone arch, but I think we're being followed. Have a look back. You look back over your shoulder and immediately spot 2 bearded men on horseback, riding abreast, only 20 yards behind the wagon. Each man is garbed in a grey tunic and wears a short sword. As you continue to scrutinize the 2 men, they suddenly veer off opposite directions and are soon lost in the teeming crowd. They got onto us at the gate, said Colmere, but I wanted to be sure. Could be just regular roughs, or my own wild imaginings. I don't mean to make a fuss out of nothing. You saw, Colmere, that his vigilance and suspicions are justified. And though you don't relate it to him, you're certain those 2 men weren't anything but regular roughs. The street you're following slowly widens and suddenly spills into the wide quadrangle. The wagon rolls across the crowded square, and Colmere draws it to a stop outside a red roof building and hops down. He tells you that he must go in and tell his paymaster that he's arrived with his cargo and find out where he needs to deliver it. I'll be just a moment with my business, he calls. He disappears into the building. While you wait, you thoroughly scan the crowded square for any sign of the bearded men, but find nothing to indicate they have entered the quadrangle. As your eyes pass across the north side of the square, however, you lock onto a tall grey stone building. In the centre window, on top of the structure, you spot 2 faces that seem to stare directly at you, and your heart skips a beat when you suddenly realize that the bearded men, faces of the men who were only minutes ago following the wagon. Colmere steps back out of the red roof building, momentarily distracting you from your study, and when you begin to look at the men who are intently watching you, they are no longer there. You glance at the very window adorning the face of the grey stone building, but find no further sign of them. You make no mention of it to Colmere. Not wishing to place Colmere in further danger and preferring to trust your own feet to his driving skills in the event that swift flight be called for, you offer your sincere thanks to your companion in the last few days and bid him farewell. I wish you the best of luck, he says as you make ready to depart. I'd rather thank you. Won't need much luck, though. It's been a pleasure, Alison. Don't forget the name, Colmere, if your ventures are someday scribed. Just mention that. That's all I ask. And you begin to thank him before turning and swiftly making your way out of the quadrangle, heading with great haste to the central part of the city. You move swiftly and haphazardly through the city, dodging into buildings and stealing through stables, abruptly changing course and on more than one occasion doubling back, only efforts to shake off what you believe to be dogged pursuit of your every step. Twice during the invasive flight, you again catch sight of the 2 bearded men, though always at a distance and only for a fleeting moment. However, after darting about the city for the better part of 2 hours, you relieved to have seemingly either thrown your pursuers off track or caused them to abandon altogether. You now begin to focus on reaching the village of Grimswick. You inquire of the city guardsman regarding Grimswick, and he tells you that the village is 3 miles east of the capital, to be found directly off the main road leading in that direction. Secure in the knowledge that you're within an hour of reaching your objective, you step into the clothier and purchase a plain grey hooded cloak. You emerge from the garment seller's shop outfitted in attire that you will hope will serve to further conceal you and any unwanted scrutiny. Garbed in a grey cloak and its hood covering your head, you linger in about the area of the city main gate until late afternoon begins to give way to the first hints of the arrival of dusk. Then, amidst the bustle and confusion of the arrival of the large caravan of merchant wagons, you slip out of the city and head east along the road leading from the capital. It's been several hours since you last observed any visible pursuit, and you begin to think that you may have finally shaken any would-be pursuers. You pray that the added cover of the approaching dusk will help to conceal you as you make your way along the road leading east from Talinas into the wooded hills where lies the village of Grimswick. 2 miles from the city, you encounter the first soul you've seen in a lonely scratch. An old man seated on a rock at the edge of the road leans heavily on the carved walking stick and greets you with a friendly wave. He breathes his breath seems ragged, and you politely and secretly ask if he is in need of any assistance. He quickly assures you that he's not and asks, how far is Talinas from here? Couple of miles, you say? Well, even this old set of bows can handle that much more, he laughs, rising unsteadily to his feet and throwing much of his weight upon the support of his trusted walking stick. I haven't been to the city in more years than I care to recall. Thank you kindly, good lady. You wish the man luck as what remains of his trek, but he suddenly tells you that's something that garners your complete attention. Strange folk on the road that way, he said, motioning to the east, which presumably is where he travelled from. I didn't care for the look of them, and I don't suppose a respectable lady like you would either. A word of warning is all I mean by it. Think the old man and watch as he slowly departs to the east and eventually lost from sight around a bend in the road. Having no reason to doubt what the man had said, and indeed every reason to believe that is true, he decided that the most prudent course of action is to leave the road and head to the wooded hills, and thus making your way east toward Grimswick under the cover of sparse forest can provide. You climb into the wooded hills to the south of the road and begin the final leg of your journey to Grimswick. An overgrown footpath leads you through a hillside orchard that appears to have long ago been abandoned. You reach the far side of the old orchard and suddenly startled by a loud hiss and rush of wind from behind you. Turn your eyes north and skyward and behold a strange and terrifying sight. Circling in the dusky sky no more than 50 feet above the top of the trees is a massive black dragon. Now and again the fearsome creature seems to take an appearance of deep shadow, and you suddenly realize that you're staring at a shadow dragon. I thought there was only one left. Without warning, the shadow dragon turns and swoops down upon you, its deadly talons outstretched, and only the rush of wind and the beat of its leather wings to herald its swift, stealthy approach. I mean, it's not stealthy if I see him. Archery! You notch and loose the arrow at the shadowy form of the rapidly descending dragon. Your feathered missile slams into the creature's chest, eliciting a painful hiss and causing a great beast to pull out of its diving attack. And the dragon's momentum carries it past you, but it swiftly climbs into the sky and then turns about as it prepares again to swoop down upon you. The shadow dragon stretches out, open its cavernous mouth, and black flames pour out of it. And a wide bolt of shadowy fire streaks the air directly toward you. Let's see. How about we go for gating? Success! A swirling black portal opens to your right. You leap into the vortex, emerging from the second gate only seconds later, about 10 feet from where you previously stood, and that flame harmlessly strikes the ground in the spot you occupied only moments ago. The dragon hurtles past, and the spiked tip of the thick, shadowy tail passing over only a few feet above your head. You turn prepared to face another attack, but to your surprise the mighty beast suddenly breaks into 1,000 of shadowy slivers that melts into gloom now gathering in the early evening sky, and as quickly as it appeared the shadow dragon is gone. Shaken by the encounter, but more determined than ever to reach Grimswick and reunite with Halan, and hopefully find Sryth, upon whom so much hope seems to rest, you hurry off to the east, moving swiftly through the wooded hills and staying out of the sight of the road. Nearly an hour after having left Talinas, a small group of light breaks through the darkness ahead, and you promptly make for them. Your eagerness is water as you descend the steep, stony slope. A small village looms out of the shadow, and you're certain that you have long last reached Grimswick. A lone man standing guard on the road leading into the village confirms that this is indeed Grimswick, and he bids you welcome and tells you that Candleglow Inn is likely to still have hot stew it can serve up even at this late hour. The man answers in response to your inquiry that no one else has entered the village along the road for several hours. This news comes as a relief, but you remain wary, unwilling to relax your guard based on the words of the stranger you ask. We might find the bit to stag, and the man gives you a surprised look in return. Well, it's seen better days for sure, he laughs. I think you'll find more to your liking in the inn, but the stag's where it's always been, well, more or less. Last place on the left, on your way out of town, straight along the way you're facing now. I still think you'll want the inn. You thank him and hurry past the village of into the village of Grimswick. You find the bitter stag, or what remains of it, in precisely the spot the man on guard told you it would be. Dumbfounded, you stand staring in disbelief at the charred and collapsed remains of the small alehouse, all indications that the fire that evidently consumed it was a recent one, occurring perhaps less than 3 days ago. Stunned by an unexpected development, you turn and about to make your way to obviously in the other side of the lane when a shadow lingering in the remainder of the ruined tavern wall suddenly slips into the ground to the ground at your feet. Out of the undulating pool of gloom on the ground before you rises the shadow likeness of a heavy wooden door. The shadow door ripples as it hovers barely an inch from the ground, only arms length from you, in front of you. You step back from the door and turn to your right, but swiftly moves to again block your path. Again and again you turn and move, but each time the shadowy door appears in front of you, there appears to be no escaping it. Without warning, the door swings open, revealing a black void, and slips swiftly beneath your feet. You drop through the open door and tumble into the void, plunging head over heels into the dark. Dun dun dun! Well, what a cliffhanger! So yeah, next time we're gonna see more about what's going on. Where's Halan? Where's Nerith? Where's Rindelwell? Where's Idriskar? Where's Priyan? Who is this young boy that helped us? Who is this coachman and what was his wares, you know? So it's a very interesting adventure. We're gonna keep going till we get Shadow Magic. Obviously, we're gonna finish the adventure as well, even if we get Shadow Magic in the next few. So hey, thanks so much for joining me. You know what I'm gonna say. Peace. Bye.